can't talk about the major league team anymore. And good thing is, I don't have to, because this is minor league news and brews. I'm your host, Craig Toth, talking about everything around the Pirates minor league system and giving you some beer reviews at the end of the show. The FCL season has concluded. The Pirates fell just short. But here to talk about it, bringing back returning guest. I don't know how many times this is right now. Let's call it, I don't know, 6 or 7. Can't wait until it's 100. Good friend of the show, Eric Garfield at Eric Birdland. Eric, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, Craig. Thanks for having me on. I look forward to a discussion where we can summarize the Pirates FCL team and season. They were really, really very, very good.
And they were for I believe in the beginning of the season, one of the times that we talked, that they were pretty much, it's like, I don't know who's actually going to beat this team. Came back down to earth a little bit, got hot again at the end of the season, ended up making it to the finals, got swept in the 2 games to the Tigers FCL team. But, I mean, to even get to that point, obviously you have some good players. And before we jumped on here, you were saying, the Pirates probably had, one of the best. Talk to us about who you were thinking about when we were talking before the show.
The my FCL MVP would be the infielder Yordani De Los Santos. He played a lot. I mean, he played just about every inning, every important inning of every game. He led the team. His stats, his counting stats were really outstanding. He was a league leader in a lot of offensive categories and really like the ones that portend good decisions as well as good physical strength, high in home runs, high in extra base hits, high in on base, a little high in strikeouts, but really just an impact player in every way. The thing that made him the MVP, because there were a lot of high tier performers and stat getters in the league, was how much of a leader he was, how much he was the voice of the team. He was like the pulse of the team. He was the best player, but he was also the best, loudest teammate. He didn't get down. He didn't sulk. He always was there for the high fives or talking to the pitchers when they were messed up. Always the loudest voice in the infield after the pitch, like lobbying for it to be a strike. So really, his level of maturity went way up, and that was the reason that he was sent back to this league.
Yeah, and it's getting that those younger players. As we know, his time up in Bradenton prior to this, wasn't what Pirates fans or Pirates minor league fans were hoping from him. But to see him go back down and to hear the things that you're saying, really showing kind of some maturity, which for his age is a great thing to see. I really like that stuff from him. A very electric player. Another guy who has come up to Bradenton and is on what I think it's either a 6 or 7 game hit streak at this point in time. I think it's 6 game hit streak.
6.
Mr. Johnny Severino. Talk about Johnny a little bit here.
Okay, so he was there for the very end of last year, and the whole time with Yordani this year. So he was one of the guys that being next to Yordani in the dugout, on the infield, in the dirt, running off the field together, turning double plays, getting outs together, throwing the ball around the horn. He was someone that kind of came out of his shell as a guy. He wasn't quiet, he wasn't sullen, he wasn't to himself. He was a regular part of dugout discourse, and he became a Pirate when last year he was just a return player in a trade. Plus, his skills are outstanding. He was the FCL leader in home runs. He had 10. They were all over the fence. Sometimes in the FCL, they're not. He batted well out of the leadoff spot. He had great metrics and production stats batting leadoff, but his numbers kind of showed more of a 3, 4, or 5 hitter, and he displayed not great skill, but slight versatility playing second, short, and third. So Severino definitely a decent contact bat, but a really good power bat as the return in the Carlos Santana trade about like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, those are good things to hear because, I mean, a lot of times when those types of trades are made, it's called the lottery ticket, and you don't know what type of player that you're getting. But I mean, I think that we did know in Severino that there was, that potential kind of within him. So it's good to see, that type of stuff coming out. Is there anybody else, on the offensive side with the bat and maybe like the defensive side, I guess, a little bit with the glove, that kind of stuck out to you, aside from the obvious ones in De Los Santos and Severino?
There was, and when I talked to like org players down here that like Axial Plaz and Braylon Bishop, they started the season in the SCL. They're now with the Marauders, so everybody's kind of in the same year. The one guy that everybody talks about and that I've got a great video of, and I think of very highly also, is the infield prospect, mainly second baseman, should be a second baseman primarily. That is Carlos Caro. The first thing I want listeners to think of is this is a 300 type of hitter. He can touch the ball, make contact really in every situation, every type of pitch, and every count, but he also has the wrists to just shoot it pull side right down the third baseline. He's got a good enough aim to go really anywhere between second and third base with the line drives. He was a 300 hitter in the DSL before he got here, and I believe at the very end of this season he got his average close to it, but not at it or over it, but just really, really consistently showing good line drive consistency with those wrists. So he's a hitter type, a hitter profile that I really, really, really liked. And he kind of, I watched the games, the exhibition games from the beginning, from like minor league spring training. This guy, he's fit that profile from the very first time I saw him. Like, he did not require like a couple weeks to get rolling, like where he was 2 for 15 or 2 for 17. This guy's been a hitter all the time, every time since I've been watching. So as he gets into affiliated ball and starts to get adjusted, I think he's going to do the same thing, like hit the ground running. Pirates fans are going to like him, Carlos Caro.
And that is good for Bradenton Marauder fans, because it looks like that their team, especially towards the end of this year, but at the beginning of next year, is going to be kind of pretty loaded with talent. We all know who everybody wants to hear about on the pitching side, and a very young player, a very I think you know who I'm thinking about here, Eric, is a guy who, Pirates fans are starting to kind of get excited about a little more, and that would have to be Xander Meath. I mean, Ben Cherington, I feel like has done a very good job, and I'm not gonna. It's not like making an excuse for the bad things I think that he's done, but his scouting department and then him himself, they've done like a really good job of selecting like the prep arms. Like when they select a prep arm, I almost expect for them to like kind of explode onto the scene.
Yep, that's reasonable.
So talk to me about Xander.
Well, I would not go by his first couple appearances, transitioning up to single A for his age and where he is in development. His out pitches, rank among the best for that age group or for that experience level, especially his slider. It's really, really extremely advanced. He can throw it to both-handed hitters and expect results. It ends up in the strike zone a lot of the time, so even if they can't swing or don't swing or make a bad swing or don't do those things, he can still strike you out with his best stuff. So he is, his delivery is unique, not exactly like Solometo, but it's part of the, I don't want to say deception package, but it's part of the strikeout package. So rookie level hitters, and I would expect very soon single A hitters are going to strike out to the tune of like at least 11 or 12 strikeouts per nine. He's awesome. He's really advanced. And for the very beginning, the Pirates play the Orioles in the FCL this past season, every Friday and every single Saturday for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 weeks. So for the first 7, I think it was 8 weeks, the Orioles, my team, their opponent, every single Saturday was Meath, and I watched him just, destroy my 17, 18, 19-year-old hitters one by one, 6 strikeout game, 7 strikeout game, 8 strikeout game. So I have a unique perspective on just how good he is, and I really respect where he is in development a lot. And by the way, I think when we did this show last year, we were saying the same thing, like the Marauders of 2024 are going to start out pretty loaded. And, it kind of worked out, but it didn't exactly work out exactly like we had speculated.
No, it definitely didn't. I thought that there would be some guys that would get the bump up to the Marauders and would be there the whole season, just different stuff. And then
Right.
Also but I think that they were smart in the way that they played this and allowed those younger guys to develop because as a Pirates fan first and foremost, but also a fan of the minor leagues, I want to see those guys move up as quickly as possible, but then I need to remember development's not linear. Not every prospect, it's not like, okay, you've completed this level, now you move up. Sometimes you need to find yourself, or I always talk about when you take off and you have the place to take off and the place to, your landing ground. So you have that runway to kind of, get going because, I mean, if we've seen guys go up to different levels at times and struggle and then not be able to get back to who they were and find that again. So I think that, in those ways, it's definitely been very smart the way they've played it. But was there any other guys on the mound that kind of really stuck out to you when you were watching them possibly mowing down your team or another team?
Yeah, Matoma. Matoma was really awesome. I actually would think that he would the Pirates will find a role for him. It'll probably be bullpen, short usage, potentially high leverage, but I'd expect him to rise through the system maybe even faster than Meath. That's the pitcher from I believe it is Uganda.
Yes.
Right. So Matoma's he's not tall. I want to say between 5'9" and 5'10", and also not I would not say it's certainly athletic, but not muscular just yet. But his delivery and getting into it, I mean, the athletic aspect of him is he repeats his delivery, it is exactly the same every single time, and he gets a lot of burst and push out of not a lot of movement wasted or utilized. So he's a little burst athlete that I believe he got it up to 98.7 or 98.9, which a lot of people would call 99. So they used him in just about every single role you can use someone who does not accumulate a lot of innings at the end. And they asked him to get hot in the playoffs. In a playoff game they were losing. I don't think it was laid out that he was in the plans to pitch that day, but get hot, and he did not have his best outing in that game. So that's, he provided some measurables and some data, but Matoma is really, really, for a pitching program and a developmental program, I mean, kind of big hands, so maybe you could teach him other pitches, so he really presents a lot to work with. And really, from what I saw, I saw just about all of his career, all of it is very, very positive.
Yeah, it's just a very exciting, number one, a very exciting and cool story. But to have him, kind of also perform as well as he is, I think I read something at some point in time that the Dodgers are actually the first ones that put an academy in Uganda. So no matter what anybody says, I'm going to tell them that we stole him away from the Dodgers. But that's just the way I'm going to roll with it.
That's what you were going to say, actually.
What's that?
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's because I definitely read up on that and saw some stuff. But before we get to another thing that we had talked about before the show that I know that, as an Orioles guy and an Orioles prospect guy that, we're going to want to talk about. But I can't, gloss over, what's going on with the Marauders either. With the Marauders, I mean, we always talk about Axial Plaz. I know that Axial Plaz is one of your favorite guys down there, one of my favorite players as well. To me, with his age, I know that the average isn't there yet. The power is definitely there. And I'm seeing him also, in some ways, I was watching a little bit of the game tonight, kind of seeing him just become a hitter. And it's a very cool thing to watch. Omar Alfonso moving up to Greensboro. So it looks like Axiel should be the primary catcher for the Marauders, at least for the near future, and probably to begin next season, I would believe as well.
No, I think, that you just reminded me, there is another FCL player to talk about. I think I agree with everything you said. I believe there are 4 series remaining after this one finishes up. So, the Marauders are probably a little bit better defensively when Plaz doesn't have to catch every single game and can play first. Just to even out the workload, but that's probably not going to happen for those 4 series, and he'll be the primary catcher, depending on what they want to do with Justin Mickness or the draftee that just came up from Army, whose first hit was an inside the park grand slam, and I know he has a 1-syllable last name. It's not coming to me right now.
Berg.
Berg, right. I was going to say something that was not Berg, but right. So right. But I also am enjoying what Plaz is doing in terms of development. I can say, I don't think of him as a high average hitter going forward, or that's what he's going to end up as. But right now, I think he's just exactly at 200 or very close to it, and he's certainly better than that. I think the thing that he's focusing on is getting to better counts and not striking out once he's in them. Working back to 3 balls means you should probably use your strike zone judgment and walk a little bit more. If you can't hit, or if you don't get anything good to swing at or hit, be satisfied with the walk. That will improve all your counting stats, especially we want you to drive in runs and bat fourth, but, batting 200 is just really, you're in near a range of not helping the team. And it happened for, another slugger type on batting right behind him or close to him for Esmeralyn Valdez. It took him a while to realize what getting to a good count and doing something positive in it required, and now his batting average is in the, I guess, middle or higher 200s as opposed to the lower 200s. By the way, Valdez is leading the Florida State League in home runs, so he hasn't sacrificed any of his better tool, his best tool, power. So perhaps that's a developmental track that Plaz can be on next year. I think you're right, Craig. I think he's going to start at Bradenton also next year. But another really good hitter on the FCL team and an outstanding defender at catcher is Richard Ramirez. There were, Ellis Cuevas, Fernando Piguero, Edwin Amparo. The Orioles had three guys who ended up with 30 steals, and they had long streaks of not being thrown out, stealing for a long time. Ramirez was the first guy who threw out all of them. So really, this is an explosive defensive catcher. He's a defensive catcher first. That's his carrying tool, but he also batted fourth or fifth and had really great counting stats and was an extremely tough out. In fact, I kind of think he made Luke Shearer a corner or first base or an outfielder. Those two were in competition to see who was going to stick at catcher, and Ramirez won it and is a full catcher.
And that's why I come to you, Eric. That's why I come to you, man, because you pull this stuff out that, I feel like Ramirez is a guy that maybe flew under some people's radar a little bit just because.
A little bit.
Yeah, just because, with, De Los Santos, Severino, Caro, Meath, Matoma, the guys that you had already mentioned. But to give you a little bit of time to talk about this last guy, everyone is probably going to want to hear, because they know that you're Eric Birdland, they know that you're an Orioles fan, so they're going to kind of want to know what we're getting here in Billy Cook. Everybody obviously always looks at the person's age, and when a player doesn't make it up by 23, 24, I feel like that a lot of major league fans kind of start to overreact about that. Billy Cook is 25, but talk to me a little bit about what the Pirates got back in Billy Cook.
Okay, this won't even come from me. This comes from Orioles players, minor league players, like the contemporaries of Billy Cook, who I've communicated with over the years. He was drafted in a time where I'm somewhat close to the players, and I watch a lot of their practices in March or February. But not the one thing, but the things that came back when talking about Billy Cook is, hey, don't be surprised if when the call-ups start to happen, he's included. Or don't forget about Billy Cook behind the big names. All the players seem to talk about who's good at this, who does this. But everybody agreed that there is nothing that Billy Cook didn't do well or positively. He's a team helper overall and a team hurter in no ways. I guess developmentally, the best thing that he did, he got his, he hit for power. He hit enough power. He started to steal bases. I think he had 30 last year, and he's in the higher teams when he got traded this year. So he's fast. He demonstrated a little bit of versatility, but his walk rate was almost in the, you're not walking at all range, middle single digits, 6% or 7%. And when the Orioles traded him, it was in the high 12s, almost 13%. So he batted in the middle of the order and started being a little bit more selective, and it didn't overall boost his counting stats, but this is not somebody who needed that. In weighted runs created plus, he was always considerably, significantly above league average. So I guess, long story short, you have enough pitchers to where trading Patrick Riley, who's good, really doesn't even matter. And I don't know that there's that many high minors hitters that translate to big leaguers right away, but you just traded for one.
That is great to hear.
Age, doesn't really matter that much. Shouldn't matter that much, pardon me.
Yeah, and the crazy thing to me is as you were talking there, I'm just like, man, we need to combine our powers and become like a super team, because it seems like the Orioles are very, very good at developing hitters. And I'm not saying that they can't develop a pitcher, but it's definitely the strong suit on the hitting side of stuff. And for the Pirates, not that we can't, develop hitters, but we can definitely develop pitchers. So, I mean, I don't know which one we would be. I don't know if we would keep the Orioles or the Pirates or whatever it would be, but it kind of sounds like that there would be a super team in there someplace.
Or just keep doing a trade like this towards the end of like a developmental phase for particular guys that are, Billy Cook was, that's another huge difference for the Orioles. As good as he did, I mean, if this guy batted .330 at Norfolk this year with 17 home runs, there's no chance he's taking the spot of Heston Kjerstad or Colton Cowser. He's just, there was no chance. So he was only blocked in Baltimore. Now in Pittsburgh, he should be in no way blocked. He should report to camp next year with a serious 40-man probability. I would think that's why he's acquired. So maybe not combined teams, but like a trade like this at the end of the deadline would, we'll take one of your pitchers, and I think you'll take one of our hitters every single year. I think that would actually be smart.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. It's actually two teams making what I've talked about this entire time is like an actual baseball trade, which is kind of like a little bit refreshing.
Yeah, and look, the Orioles traded a lot away. Craig, the Orioles system, they traded a big percent of their recently drafted and ranked high talent. Like, Riley is not going to have a bad spot in their organizational top 30. I'm making my list right now. I have him as 5th after the graduation. So, it was smart for you, but it might have been smart and almost close to necessary for us.
I definitely do, kind of see it that way, and we'll help you out wherever you can, because you help me out. Eric, it's always great talking to you, man. And it's that once we get off of here, we're probably going to talk for a few more minutes because we can't stop talking baseball. I love what you do down there, man. Boots on the ground. And appreciate you jumping back on. For those of you that don't, I always say this, but you probably should. Please go follow Eric Birdland. You put out all the videos on your Instagram account, but you also, talk about them on your X account as well. Eric, it's always a pleasure, brother.
Yeah, thank you. I feel the same way about you, and thanks for the opportunity. This is always a good time. Good subject to talk about, and I'm glad the Pirates are my second team down here.
While since I've done a top 5 Pirates prospect performers. Went on vacation last week, but in the episode prior to that, sat down with JT Toth from Draft Nation. went over their top 15, the updated top 15 over there. So go read that article, go back and listen to that podcast episode. And then when I was down in would be Surfside Beach, South Myrtle Beach, didn't record a minor league news and brews. Did a little bit of a recap of the trade deadline with at Pirate Takes. Go back and listen to that episode as well. Did get to see a Pirates minor league game on the way down to vacation. Stopped off in Greensboro and got to see one of the top 5 guys here, Alessandro Urkerlani. I would like to claim him as an Italian brother, but cannot do that. He is actually from San Marino, 20 years old, has been used a lot in a long relief role, going about 3 or 4 innings pitched. Has started some games, but for the most part, recently has been doing those long relief roles. His last outing on August 7th, 4 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 base on ball, 7 Ks since June 1st. A 174 ERA, 31 innings pitched, a 0.87 whip, 45 Ks, 9 base on balls. Number 2, a guy who I just missed, had been promoted to Double-A Altoona before I stopped off in Greensboro. He's been in the top 5 here before. That's Nick Camillo. Nick Camillo in his time with the Grasshoppers /293, 419, 619, 17 home runs, 25.6% K rate to 17% base on balls. He's only been in Altoona for 16 games. The average has miraculously stayed the same, 293. The on base 379, 448, slugging a couple home runs, 19.7% K rate, 12.1% base on ball rate. Very small sample size. The former Rutgers catcher, now primarily a first baseman and DH. Number 3, Thomas Harrington. Not the greatest debut in AAA, but he did receive the promotion. Went 5 2/3, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 home run. The one thing that he doesn't do is he doesn't walk anybody really. 1 base on ball, 4 Ks. Most of this for the top 5 Pirates prospect performers is what got him to AAA and what I still believe that he will do in his time with the Indianapolis Indians. Number 4, cheating a little bit here, just going to knock 2 guys together here. I had Eric Garfield on talking about Billy Cook, and then also a little bit of Nick York, the 2 newly acquired guys. To go with what Billy Cook did in his time in AAA Norfolk before coming over to the Pirates and the Indianapolis Indians, 304 plate appearances, 279, 372, 485, 11 home runs, the 22.7% K rate, and as Eric said, the base on ball rate is up over 10 at 11.2%. Nick York, he actually had better numbers in AAA than he did in AA before his promotion earlier this season. In AAA, 310, 408, 490, 6 home runs. Since those guys have come over to Indianapolis at the time of this recording this on Friday afternoon, they have combined for 8 doubles, and Billy Cook has added a home run. So really good for them. And I had written this name down before Eric even brought him up. Esmerlin Valdez is number 5 on this list, 20 years old. As Eric said, leading the Florida State League in home runs with 17. He has the .816 OPS, a 132 WRC plus, playing left field, right field, DH. Can play a little bit of first base as well, But those are your top 5 Pirates prospect performers for probably about the last couple of weeks here or so.
A pitcher of beer, a pitcher of beer, let's order another pitcher of beer. That pitcher of beer should come over here. I love that pitcher of beer.
Did a little bit of craft beer tasting while I was down in Surfside Beach, South Myrtle Beach, with the brother-in-law. Did some golfing, went out to some dinners with the family, was trying a bunch of beers down there, but before I left, went out with my wife for her birthday and got to try some local beers. So for the next probably approximately 4 weeks here, I've got all my beers lined up from what I drank that night, as well as all of the beers that I tasted on vacation. The first one, local beer. It is from Jeanette, Pennsylvania. It's Sobel's Obscure. That's a crazy word. Sobel's Obscure. And this is Dumb Foozle's Fantasy Hazy IPA coming in at 6%. Give that one a 425, knock it down to 375. And then from Trails to Ales Brewing, the Twisted Trail IPA coming in at 6.5%. Give that one a 425 as well, knock it down to 375. As I said, the first stop on the trip, First National Bank Field, home of the Greensboro Grasshoppers. Brother-in-law and I tried each of these. The first one we had was from Appalachian Mountain Brewing, their Boone Creek Blonde, coming in at 4.7%. Give that one a 400, knock it up to 425. The Wicked Weed. I've had a couple of the Wicked Weeds before. I believe it might have been last year when I was down in Tennessee on vacation there at the Tennessee Smokies game. They had 2 on tap from Wicked Weed. And the first one is the Perny IPA, coming in at 7.3%. Give that one a 400, knock it down to 350. And the one that I really like, the Perny Haze, the Hazer they call it, coming in at 6.3%. Give that one a 475, knock it down to 425. Until next time, everyone, let's go Indians, let's go Curve, let's go Hoppers, and let's go Bradenton Marauders.